Machiavelli's forbidden playbook for power and wealth. The hidden script they hope you never read. You were never meant to be powerful. The game was rigged long before you knew there was a game. While you were taught to be honest, patient, and humble, others were memorizing blueprints of control. They weren't just playing harder, they were playing a different game. A forbidden game. This is the world of Niccolò Machiavelli. The man they called dangerous not because he lied, but because he told the truth too clearly. He wrote not for the masses, but for those brave and cold, enough to see reality without filters. He revealed how power really works, how men really rise, and why morality, for most, is just a leash handed to them by the powerful. In this video, we're not here to be good. We're here to understand, to see what the powerful have always known, and what they'll never teach you in school, religion, or polite conversation. If you still have the courage to look at the truth directly, then keep watching. Like this video, subscribe if you dare, and turn on notifications, because what you'll learn here, no algorithm wants spreading. Part 1: The Myth of Moral Success. Most people cling to a comforting belief that success is the natural reward of virtue. Work hard, be nice, stay consistent. The world will notice, right? That's the fairy tale. The truth is that power doesn't orbit goodness. It gravitates towards strategy. Machiavelli saw this illusion centuries ago. In The Prince, he dismantles the fantasy that rulers rise because of divine favor or moral purity. He shows, with brutal honesty, that those who climb to the top often do so in spite of morality, not because of it. Cunning, adaptability, and controlled ruthlessness, these are the real currencies of ascension. You've probably seen it in your own life. The promotion didn't go to the most competent, it went to the most connected. The money flowed to those who broke the rules, not to those who followed them. You were told to wait your turn. But turns don't come in a rigged game. They're taken. This doesn't mean values are useless. It means values without strategy are suicide. You're not being punished for being good, you're being outplayed for being predictable. And the worst part? The system depends on your loyalty to the illusion. Why do you think every school teaches obedience but never persuasion? Why does every religion preach sacrifice but never sovereignty? Why do your role models tell you to be grateful instead of strategic? Because a man who sees the game can no longer be used by it. Comment below if you've ever felt punished for doing everything right. You're not alone, and this video will show you why. Part 2: The Mask of Virtue. What if I told you that the most moral people you've admired were simply the most disciplined actors? Power rarely walks naked. It dresses itself in righteousness. It hides behind charity, diplomacy, smiles. Because raw dominance is too obvious, and obvious power makes people revolt. So the elites wrap ambition in virtue, aggression in etiquette, control in compassion. They know that real power is most effective when it feels earned by the one being dominated. Machiavelli never denied that virtue had value, but he warned us. Its value is not in its truth. It's in its utility. He called it virtù, not in the Christian sense of piety or goodness, but as the strategic use of strength, image, and timing to shape perception and bend reality. A man who appears kind while holding the knife always wins over the man who shows his blade too early. Think about it. The CEO who speaks softly about equality while laying off thousands. The politician who kisses babies while signing contracts that exploit the poor. The influencer who preaches mental health while selling addictive products for profit. You think that's hypocrisy? Machiavelli called it intelligence. People want to believe in heroes, so the smartest players become the hero people need, not by being genuine, but by learning the performance. They study the crowd, mirror its values, feed its hopes. Then, once trust is secured, they act according to plan, not conscience. And what happens to the honest man? He gets used, praised publicly, exploited privately. He becomes a symbol of what others pretend to be, while holding none of the leverage they secretly build behind his back. Machiavelli teaches us that appearing moral is far more useful than being moral. A ruler should not abandon morality completely, but must be ready to violate it when survival, influence, or power demands it. He must be wise enough to understand the difference between appearance and essence. Because people judge with their eyes, not their minds. If you're too pure to manipulate appearances, you will always be a tool, not a player. And in a world where everyone's acting, your silence isn't authenticity. It's invisibility. Now let's be clear. This isn't a call to become a liar or a tyrant. This is a call to wake up. To realize that those who hold power are rarely who they pretend to be, and if you want to rise, you must stop treating sincerity as a strategy. Even in your daily life, you've seen this. The job interview where the most charming person wins, not the most skilled. The relationship where one partner controls the other through guilt disguised as love. The colleague who flatters the boss, plays innocent, and keeps climbing, while you stay loyal to being yourself. It hurts, doesn't it? To realize the world doesn't reward truth. It rewards narrative. But that pain is your invitation. Not to become fake, but to become strategic. You can still choose integrity, but make it a choice, not a default. You can still be honest, but know when it's a weakness and when it's a weapon. You can still value loyalty, but not to systems that drain your power in the name of virtue. Machiavelli didn't want you to become a monster. He wanted you to stop being prey, because predators wear smiles. And if you're still clinging to moral superiority, you're not safer, you're softer. You need to understand the enemy's playbook to survive. Not to betray who you are, but to stop being used by those who already have. Virtue, in this world, is often a muzzle. And Machiavelli offers the key to take it off. Now I ask you, when was the last time your goodness protected you? When was the last time your sincerity gave you leverage? If your answer is never, then maybe it's time to stop wearing your truth like a badge and start wielding it like a blade. Leave a comment if you've ever watched a faker win. You're not crazy. You were just too real in a world that rewards the mass. Part 3: How they manufacture obedience. No one is born obedient. Obedience is carved into you, refined, polished, rewarded, until you mistake it for a virtue. From the moment you're born, you're trained to associate power with danger, and submission with survival. The classroom teaches you not to question, but to raise your hand. The church teaches you that humility is sacred and pride is sin. The workplace tells you to be a team player, which really means obey quietly and celebrate decisions made above your head. This isn't coincidence. It's a system. One designed not for your growth, but for your containment. Machiavelli understood that the greatest rulers don't rule with violence. They rule with illusion, with myths of moral order, divine right, and collective good. Because fear creates rebellion. But belief creates loyalty. That's why governments cloak authority in patriotism. Why corporations wrap control in company culture. Why religions demand obedience under the banner of faith. You're not just following, you're made to feel proud of your own submission. And this is the most dangerous trick. They convince you that rebellion is selfish, but obedience is love. So you stay quiet, not because you're weak, but because you've been taught that speaking up makes you wrong. That questioning makes you ungrateful. That wanting more makes you evil. But here's what Machiavelli would say. A ruler does not need truth. He needs stability. And stability is best achieved when the sheep no longer notice the fences. He warned us that the most stable regimes aren't the most just, they're the most skilled in controlling perception. They don't silence the people with violence. They do it with rituals, slogans, media, and rewards. You behave not because you're forced, but because you're conditioned. You think you're choosing, but you're simply following a path that was already chosen for you. Let's go deeper. Why is the 9-to-5 life so normalized? Because it keeps you just tired enough to not resist, and just paid enough to not revolt. Why is debt pushed so aggressively? Because a man in debt is a man in chains, smiling while working harder for what he'll never own. Why is political discourse framed as left versus right? Because if you're fighting each other, you'll never look up and question who benefits from the war. Obedience is the real product. The system doesn't care if you believe in God, science, capitalism, or progress, as long as your beliefs make you easier to manage. Machiavelli, if alive today, wouldn't be surprised by your chains. He'd be surprised by how comfortable you are in them. And here's the painful truth. Most people don't want freedom. They want the illusion of freedom. They want to choose their prison cell color, their job title, their brand of toothpaste, but never to question why they need permission to live, breathe, and speak their truth. Obedience is addictive. It gives you a script, a role, a place in the world, but it robs you of your sovereignty. So how do you break free? You start by seeing the bars, by questioning every story you were told about what's right, by asking, who profits from my obedience? Who benefits when I stay silent? Who gets richer when I follow the rules? Because here's the secret. The moment you see the manipulation, it loses its power. The spell breaks, and even if you still live inside the system, you're no longer of the system. That's when you become dangerous. Not violent, not irrational, just awake. You stop waiting for permission. You stop seeking validation. You stop measuring your worth by how well you obey. And the world, the system, starts to fear you. Because nothing threatens the powerful more than a man who knows he's been programmed. So ask yourself now, what part of your life is truly yours? Your beliefs? Your goals? Your fears? Or were they all given to you, like clothes you never chose, worn so long you forgot they weren't yours? Comment below if you're ready to unlearn what they trained into you. Because the moment you begin that process, you stop being a servant and start becoming a strategist. Part 4 of the power of strategic amorality. If you want to rule, or at least not be ruled, you must kill one illusion first. That goodness guarantees safety. It doesn't. Not in business, not in politics, not in life. The most dangerous men in history weren't the most evil, they were the most effective. And what made them effective wasn't their cruelty, but their detachment. They didn't act based on guilt or emotion. They acted based on outcome. They weren't immoral. They were amoral. And that's what scares people. Because amorality is misunderstood. You hear immoral and think monster. But Machiavelli saw it as a form of strategic clarity, the ability to see the world not as it should be, but as it is. Not to destroy values, but to transcend the prison they can become when used against you. He didn't advocate evil for its own sake. He simply understood that if you want to create change, or survive the changes others create, you cannot be enslaved by abstract moral codes that were never designed to protect you. Let me give you an example. Imagine two leaders. One believes deeply in fairness, the other believes in result. When crisis hits, the first leader consults his ethics committee, his peers, his conscience. The second calculates the cost, controls the narrative, and moves. Guess who wins? Every time? Now apply this to your own life. You want to start a business, but you're afraid of offending competitors. You want to leave a toxic relationship, but you feel guilty about how it might hurt them. You want to speak truth online, but you hesitate because it's not nice. So you wait. You stall. You lose. Meanwhile, someone else, less good, more focused, takes the opportunity. They build. They dominate. They win. Strategic amorality doesn't mean becoming a villain. It means stepping outside the script. It means understanding that power is neutral, and those who use it best are those who aren't paralyzed by the need to look innocent. Because here's the truth Machiavelli knew. History doesn't remember the pure. It remembers the bold. And in many cases, the boldest were not the ones following rules, but the ones rewriting them. You were told to be selfless, to give more than you take, to turn the other cheek. But Machiavelli would ask, "To whom are you giving, and why? Who taught you that virtue is always sacrifice, and how much did they profit from your belief?" Strategic immorality is not chaos. It's not cruelty. It's discipline. The discipline to hold your values in one hand and your reality in the other, and to know when to use which. Some days the world will demand mercy. Other days it will demand silence. And sometimes it will demand teeth. Machiavelli's greatest insight was that leadership requires flexibility. A rigidly moral man becomes predictable. A predictable man becomes weak. And a weak man becomes a pawn. But the strategist? He adapts. He wears the mask when needed. He drops it when power calls. He plays the part of the lamb until the wolf is required. This is why the masses fear Machiavelli. Not because he told them to be evil, but because he revealed the price of being naive. Look at modern culture. We cancel people for mistakes, but celebrate actors for pretending. We elevate surface over substance, intentions over outcomes. And then we wonder why the fakers rise while the honest fall. Strategic immorality is your armor. It protects you from manipulation. It frees you from the guilt they installed in you to make you obedient. It allows you to play their game without becoming their puppet. It doesn't mean betraying your soul. It means choosing when to show it and when to shield it. Comment below if you've ever lost an opportunity because you hesitated to do what needed to be done. Because this isn't just theory. It's the playbook the powerful never wanted you to read. Part 5. Why you must become dangerous. There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes, nice is not enough. Hard work is not enough. Even intelligence, sharp, refined, well-documented, is not enough. What is enough? Danger. Not the reckless kind that swings fists in the dark, but the deliberate kind that makes others pause before crossing you. The kind that walks into a room and changes its temperature, without raising its voice. Machiavelli never said, "Be cruel." He said, "Be capable of cruelty." Because if you can't harm, your kindness is meaningless. It's not virtue, it's incapacity rebranded. The lion is not respected because he always kills. He is respected because he can. He carries the possibility of destruction. And in that possibility there is gravity, presence, power. You've been taught to defang yourself, to apologize before you speak, to preface every sentence with, "I might be wrong, but," as if shrinking yourself will protect you from a world designed to devour the silent. Let me be clear. You were not born to be safe. You were born to be sovereign. But sovereignty requires edge. And edge is built in fire, not therapy. Machiavelli would call this your arsenal. Not of weapons, but of will. The quiet readiness to act, to defend, to impose. Yes, impose. A forbidden word in the age of endless consent forms. But if you don't impose your vision, someone else will impose theirs on you. This is why the powerful always seem calm. Not because they're at peace, but because they know what they're capable of. And so does everyone else. Do you? Or have you numbed that part of you so thoroughly that even your ambition has to ask permission? A man who cannot scare is a man who cannot protect his family, his values, his soul. Because the world doesn't just challenge what you say, it tests what you'll defend. And if you're not dangerous enough to defend anything, you'll be told what to value, what to believe, what to be. Now I can hear the gentle souls already clutching their ethical pearls. Isn't this toxic masculinity? No. This is toxic passivity in detox. You don't need to act violently. You need to become someone who doesn't need to. Because your presence speaks louder than your threats. A dangerous man doesn't need to scream. He just needs to look. Machiavelli revered the man who was feared and loved. But if he had to choose, he said, "It is much safer to be feared." Not because fear is evil, but because fear is clarity. It removes all doubt about where you stand. You must become dangerous not to destroy, but to prevent destruction. To ensure that what matters is never negotiated under pressure, but protected through presence. You're not becoming a villain. You're becoming a force. And forces don't apologize for existing. So the next time you hesitate to speak your truth, remember, the world already has enough polite prisoners. It needs free men with fire in their eyes. If you've ever felt that rage, not chaos but clarity, comment below, because that spark, that's not anger, that's your threshold, and it's time to cross it. Part 6, The Rebirth of the Strategic Man. If you've come this far, you are no longer who you were. The obedient boy is gone. The polite dreamer buried. What stands here now is a man with his eyes open and his spine intact. You are no longer seduced by the myths of fairness, no longer hypnotized by the gospel of patience, no longer addicted to the approval of those who profit from your silence. You have seen the machine. You've looked behind the curtain. And what you found was not evil, but design. A structure built to extract your power while smiling in your face. And now you know. You don't escape the game by being good. You escape it by becoming a player. Strategic, dangerous, awake. You do not need to destroy anyone, but you must never again let yourself be destroyed in the name of goodness. You must never again confuse compliance with character. You must never again bow to rules written by men who would never live by them. Because now you are something else. You are no longer useful to the system, you are intolerable to it. And that is your power. You will walk differently, speak less, choose your battles with precision. And when you strike, it will not be out of emotion, but necessity. Cold, clean, certain. You will be loved by few, respected by many, feared by those who once tried to domesticate you. And deep down, you will finally respect yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you chose to see, to endure, to remember. This is your initiation into a brotherhood of men who have burned the mask, buried the script, and risen from the ashes of obedience with nothing but truth in their veins. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be sovereign. Now go, and don't look back. Machiavelli handed you the playbook. The rest is war.